Was just looking at the New Mexico section, thinking of it the next couple of videos. A further review of books and one about something in particular. When I found this, which I thought I had forgotten that I made a physical copy of a number of physical copies that I gave to people of this essay. That's the modern copy shop binding there. Spiral, it's all right. This is what I prefer. Oh, how I miss the copy shop clamp binding. It was so nice. You could write something on the side. Can't do that with the spiral. Anyway, this is a short book length chapter of book 2 of my book, Shadows of Clouds on the Mountains, a 60 chapter multi-form experimental maximalist 2-volume American tell-all memoir. Autobiography, really. This is part of a future proof of concept cover photo. Cornelian shadow box. Really, it's more of a collage than a shadow box. It's how it's feeling to me. Book 1 of 2 will be done this year, but most of book 2 is done also because I was working on the whole thing as a single work for a long time. It just grew. But this is going to be a chapter in book 2, and it's a really unique form, I think. It's called Studying the Earth from Space. The Prairie Has an Endless Sky. And there's a subtitle, a lyric essay in book titles by Michael Farrell Smith in collaboration with many others. And then see there's a footnote there. And there's a photo of the books that make up the title. The title is the titles of 2 books put together. And they are hanging on the wall together. And they were hanging above the bookcase. See, there's the whole work right there. We'll see this when we get into the front cover. There's the title hanging on the wall up there. And you could read this whole thing. It's an essay in bookshelf form. And it has 3 major sections. And if you follow the footnote, so check this out, by Michael Farrell Smith in collaboration with many others. And the footnote is in the back, and it's 3 10-point font pages of footnotes listing the authors that wrote the titles of the books on the case. Footnote, including among an unknowable number of editors, publishers, translators, illustrators, peers, and whoever else might have helped create these titles, the U.S. Geological Survey and Julian May, the 2 sources of my essay's title. David Shields, a fitting experimental author to begin an essay of other people's words. Yeah. Michael Erard, Ian Kofer, Bruce Jackson, George Gaylord Simpson, David M. Buss, Wolfgang Kemp, the writers of The Onion, twice in a row. I've read The Onion since 1998. Helen Keller, Eric Hoffer, Robert M. Sapolsky, Malcolm Muggeridge, Richard Benke, Joseph Johnson, Jules Verne, Robert Louis Stevenson, Christopher O'Brien, John C. Van Dyke, Marjorie Burns, Tobias Wolff, Richard. So it goes on, and then the paragraph, which is separated with white space, ends in a semicolon. This is all just one big long footnote. And I editorialize and give a little bit of information in the paragraph, in the parentheses, parenthetical statements. But it's still pretty lean, like a clean, crisp, fast writing style that you wouldn't want to read. Usually, a relentless, almost Whitman-esque cataloging that I still kind of enjoy because I like to hear the names of authors I love. They're kind of my family, 'Cause I'm a nerd with no friends at all. No, that's not true. But I do love my literary world across time and space. Our literary world, we all get to share in it. It's beautiful. It's different for everybody. And this book was a crazy experiment. Okay, here's the thing. I've dithered on if I ever read this on the channel, and now that I found this physical copy, I just want to. I knew it was on my laptop, but now I have a physical copy. This was in the New Mexico section. This is getting moved to closet books. The books no one's allowed to read go to die. What's up, squirrel? Pete, what's your secret? What's the secret to contentment? Are you Siddhartha on the riverbank, watching the water flow by? You know that it exists at the mouth, at every bend, and at its source simultaneously. You're untroubled by this. Squirrel, you're a shaggy friend all. Studying the Earth from Space, the Prairie Has an Endless Sky. A NASA booklet, I believe, from the 80s. Maybe earlier. Saturated color with matte finish. Oh, I love it, I love it, I love it. These are the kinds of works you display. But this also looks like a very interesting booklet, Studying the Earth from Space. A lot of what NASA does is just study our own planet. Or they did when they had some funding. Oh, yeah. I like the dead stick thing, but my daughter says maybe it's depressing and symbolic in a sad way, indicating a lack of life. I'm like, what the heck? You display dead flowers. Why are you spinning this on me? But I just love the pop art sensibility. That record is painted by one of my kids, I think Anodyne. I love that idea, and that's a beautiful piece of visual art, abstract art. I wish they would paint more records. I've tried to get them to. I like that rose one. And these are okay up here. No, they're all good. I like them all. I'm a dumb chump for color, you know. It's pretty because it's a nice color. It's like the sky. Well, if that wasn't my daughter, I'd be the creepiest guy on the planet. Why do you have a picture of this kid hanging on your wall? Because I'm a freak. I should be killed. You gotta have pictures of your kids. You know? I miss them, and I also want to remember them at different times of life, you know? Still see them, but it's just, you know, they're getting older and more independent. It's actually a really good self-portrait. Well, you distracted me. So I might just read this thing until I get a phone call from a telemarketer and get interrupted and it's cut off halfway, and then I have to make this a part one, since that happens every other time I set out to do a long video. But this was a whole season in my life, and that's kind of in the material. I think some of the front and back and interstitial matter might feel a little dated, like politically charged. It's one of those what I call real-time essays, and it's also a collage work, and a creatively plagiaristic work, and then it's using the titles of all these existing books. When you write something like this, and usually people limit it to poems, like book title poems are a thing you'll see on social media, and usually shorter poems. It feels kind of special though, like it's huge. There's almost 1,000 books here. And so with the warning that I think some of this stuff might be a little shrill and dated, and I don't like that, and I usually edit it out when I read things from like politically heightened moments. For one thing, you usually have more perspective. For another, you care less, so it rings like really too heightened or something when you care less. You're like, oh yeah, that was before that was beaten out of me. But I suppose you would call this a hybrid work. It's cool. I just want to revisit it, even if we find imperfections or something. Because when did I write this? This would have been around in like early 2020, I think. I remember having a concert at the house, and my then wife played, and the bookshelves just all looked awful, and I was embarrassed because they were all picked clean for me to do this essay. This one snobby guy totally mocked my paperback nonfiction shelf. I've thought of many a retort to him since then. He's like, yeah, these books are pretty lame that are out here. For the record, they were not. The selection was a lot like this, but more, you know. And there's great stuff here. But, what was I going to say? But let's just read this, I guess. Studying the Earth from Space, the Prairie Has an Endless Sky. A lyric essay and book titles by Michael Farrell Smith in collaboration with many others. Maybe I'll read this with a little commentary too, just if I feel like it. This visually formatted lyric memoir essay / conceptual artwork by Michael Farrell Smith runs 2,666 words, incorporating 52 images with a 2,666 word forward, 2,666 word afterward, and 2,666 word author list endnote, and may still be available for publication. Email, call, write, and it gives an email. Oh. You know what? Why not just put that out into the world? But here was it. So this is something that really was a conceptual artwork too, because look, it's this giant wall of books. But this is, I would call, a book title essay. You know, many of you may be familiar with David Shields' book, Reality Hunger, a Manifesto, that's entirely paragraph sampled from something else, plagiarized from something else. But this wall, check this out. Studying the Earth from Space, the Prairie Has an Endless Sky. Oh, wait, I'm skipping ahead. Forward, the world in the work. Studying the Earth from Space, the Prairie Has an Endless Sky is a visually formatted lyric essay whose words are all book titles from my home library. Most are from books acquired during my 40 years of life. Some are from my 4 kids' 4 collections, from books of which were once mine, siblings, parents, grandparents, and as much as a shelf comes from my new wife Maro's few cases. So this is all of that time. None of these books or the one cassette was acquired only for this essay or for a title. The books were drawn from our house's library of around 5,000 books, and no, I have not read them all. I think there were more than that, though. Also, there would likely be more graphic memoir and novel titles here if most of mine were not with a certain stalling someone I will not loan books to again. Ha! I am annoyed about someone borrowing books for too long as I preface a work that outright steals from hundreds of others. I mean, it's cool, Mark, whenever. It's only been like 2 years. As my friend author Ty Bannerman recently told me, every bookcase, or at least its titles, is a modular essay on the tastes and interests of its curators. So this essay is like that, but more structured, edited, sculpted. Like every bookcase and every essay, a more openly plagiaristic version of every piece of writing ever. The words are all titles, a tribute/heist inspired in part by David Shields' mostly lifted Reality Hunger, a manifesto, and Robert Fitterman's playfully appropriative Rob the Plagiarist, by uncreative writing in its subgenres. Twitter feeds like @tweets_of_old and @remix_theory, zines like Found and ABQ Lost, and by the care people like my friend writer Lisa Barrow show in arranging their shelves. But every word ever written is an act of taking, and no one has ever written anything without rivers of influence flowing in first. I am doing what our reality has done since the start. Tear apart and recombine and tear apart and There are literary precedents like the Cento, all stolen lines dating back at least to Faltonia Baptistia Proba, 306 to 315 CE, and her Christian repurposing of the verses of Virgil. Dadaists made cut-up poems in the 1920s, and genres and subgenres exist of found poetry, erasure poetry, and edited excerpts. Artist-poet Nina Kachadorian has made short book title poems out of various people's home libraries since 1993, and there are relevant hashtags on Instagram such as #BookSpinePoetry and #BookTitlePoetry, but I have yet to find other book title essays. They probably exist. I actually want this to be a genre so I can read others. Stories, too. Also critical exegeses interrogating it all about appropriation, identity, influence, and intent. This work is about a life in books and a life in writing, told as both a wall of books and as a piece of writing. Writing it has made acknowledging my influences unavoidable, along with the sometimes narrow range of my influences, has given me tangible examples of the power of simple writing rules like put voice first, put like with like, and end strong, and has let me experience many of the private mental acts of writing as physical ones. Try it. Want to cut a line? Pull it from a shelf. Note its physical qualities like a synesthete. Or, want to add a line? First you have to find it. Maybe it's in the music room. I felt at times as if I was in some new treatment, externalizing acts of writing into a full body life spanning practice. Often this felt thrilling, intense, and handling books from throughout my life also stirred up memories and feelings, once blasting a 1994 song I no longer like in my head for a full day. I suffer for my art. I feel as if I've had this idea a few times going back years, inspired by the influences mentioned above and by collage, poetry, sampling in my own shelves. I just never knew how to start, and the process loomed interminable, sifting through rooms of books one by one. But then, in bed, literally while staring up at the spine of Eureka by Marlene Wagman Geller, A History of Ideas, I saw a way. Find books with titles that are certain types of phrases, punctuated titles, prepositional phrases, noun phrases, verb phrases, commands, and go from there. This made the idea visible, as did establishing thematic structures to shape content and point of view. All art is a collaboration with the unconscious, but writing this essay has made that real for me. The almost 700 titles I chose revealing things I long suspected about me to me. I began this all thinking of magnetic poetry, mostly only playing with phrases, but soon it all felt more like literary sand tray therapy, and or like rock climbing, but through books, scanned it, moving over shelves, physical, spatial, cerebral, geometric. The words here are all others' words, and yet a voice emerges, a voice that sounds to me like me, or a version of me, like my experience of consciousness, like a modernity-crushed Walt Whitman by way of DJ Shadow or the Avalanches, winding, brisk, fragmented, moving thought by thought, shelf by shelf, and case by case, reading. Montaigne maybe wouldn't recognize it, but this is an essay. In part one, the essay's reality is shown as one framed, held in by death, your reality, my reality, nonfiction reality, our reality. Its narrator is a modern man, a study in duality, a privileged life of frustrated hopes, yawn, but someone who lives in and loves books and what is. The narrator reveals this essay's subject, him, his life, and all life, declaring he will examine himself and his world in many contexts, through lens after lens, like a steampunk optometrist examining the good and the bad in those terms. The piece's nonfiction narrator, me, barely distinguishes between himself and other people or himself and his surroundings. The setting feels American, open, desert, southwestern, New Mexican, and its setting is in books. This is a memoir of a literary life, a felt life, a thought life, a life in reading and writing. The essay's unsaid setting is October to December 2019. Also 1979 to 2019. Also all times and all spaces. Space, the human experience, what it is to be, youth, age, this cold lost realm wherein we are all terrifyingly free to reappraise and reject all myths. At least this narrator has someone speaking throughout to a recurring you, a partner, a friend, a reader. He identifies as an artist struggling, creating, and surviving within concentric rings of society and nature, and he allies with you, his reader, the seeker of truth and clarity. Someone unafraid to forever see life anew, turning yourself inside out continually, churning like Io, Jupiter's most volcanic moon. To be a reader is to seek out life in dusty paper and hidden springs in books out of shelves like the crags of a remote desert mountain, say Sierra Ladrones. This essay's time frame is now, but that now is one in every possible context. Now is a beginning and end, a spectrum, a speck in a measureless void, a wave, a particle, a line. This essay is a book of life and death, nothing and everything. Its time frame is the past and now, and a dark future. A future is always made livable by truth and idea. For this reason, the piece's 2,666 word count conflates the essay, a darkness marbled by lightning light, with the fiery future hinted at in a catalog, a list of 5 years in this essay, including the title of Roberto Bolaño's dark masterpiece 2666, that title here used mostly as a far-off year with ominous connotations. In part 2, the piece's central bookcase, the narrator's voice becomes a collective one, declaring that we are the people who live along the edges, who explore the unknown, who push through doubt, the natural world, and our paltry understanding of being and life. Humans are animals, inextricable from the natural order, yet we deny all that with almost all we are. And we live in places that were other places, denying all that too. We live where the built and the natural collide. And we live with relentless existential threats, including nuclear threats, climate change, pollution, late-stage capitalism, neo-feudalism, and the global resurgence of authoritarian rule. This piece's narrator is someone who has already bicycled neck first at least once into the ladder of reality, a man grateful he at least has someone to think and talk with, a partner and or reader. He observes that something calls to us and demands to be explored, and that something is everything, nothing, nature, artifice, being, non-being, time, timelessness. We get where we need to go, this says, by taking risks and facing the unknown. My subconscious mind told me this through this work, and I needed to hear it. Our journeys are all journeys. All is fractal, and our origins are all origins. I want to live forever, and I want us all to live forever. Life is long, and then it's gone. We get where we're going by learning from and reinventing the past. Writing can help it all feel worth it. Reading, too. Reading is writing. A reader completes a piece. The time frame of this piece is now and beyond now, imagining when now is a lost world which no one can revisit, when our present is sealed away in the past. The time frame is all time. In part 3, the narrator has again become singular, an I, but now a larger I, someone who moves, wanting to comprise all and to represent all, like Whitman tried, and like everyone is always doing without trying. I am a life and a lie in words and in people. I persist in the illusion of my autonomy, even as I see that all that is connection and complexity. I am myself, but I am also all the atoms and elements comprising me. I am an observer, a disturber, a witness, a catalyst, a subject, a constellation of random data points, stray thoughts, a divided self, writing. This narrator writes about the story of everything, most recently the story of humans, about how all of us share that story, and about how we can explore that story truthfully and creatively in nonfiction and in fiction and in all art, compelled as we are by the forces of nature, represented here by the moon, and by forces of technology, as represented in this essay by all things nuclear. Big picture aside, we can't just let all we know just get worse. We have to stay alert and active. To be apolitical, to be silent, is to let authoritarian, anti-art, anti-human, anti-nature, neo-fascist forces rule, to allow collapse and ruin. So, yeah, no, speak up, learn, create, improve the world, care. Those of us who write or in any way create have a powerful added weapon. All art except fascist art is a social good. Create against hate, shine up into the dark. I live in the U.S. with about 329 million others, but I could be anywhere imperfect, actively failing to honor its best ideals. Anywhere offering and promising so much, yet where so much of what it delivers is cheap, illusory, badly compromised by inequality, greed, and corruption. America is all the above, good and bad, and also the land that was here before. Let's call on everyone to imagine a better, more peaceful, just world. In books and art, experiencing other minds beside our own, we are shown a way, the way of empathy. Many studies show reading literature grows this. I live surrounded by the United States of America, a country I would be a fool to trust completely, though I am a part of it by birth. I love certain ideals that have evolved from the U.S.'s fraught history, but it needs to be held accountable for its crimes and mistakes, as do we all, especially those of us alive here with notable privilege. I'm not alone here. I am with you, my partner in all this, a reader who is also a writer, a co-creator, completing the vision of this piece's author, me, with your own experiences and thoughts. adding additional levels of connection to your experience of the work from your relationship to these books yourself. This essay says a life in books can be an enjoyably rich one. It says every life can be improved with knowledge and imagination. Like everyone, you are a constellation, a collection, perception, stars, a library, a scene of stars shining above a library. One way we could begin to repair our world would be to plant 1 trillion trees, and yes, that is so many trees, but this would be cheaper than most modern wars. And a July 2019 study in the journal Science shows that could significantly turn human-caused climate change. Turn around human-caused climate change. Plant a tree on your own. What if everyone who read this planted a tree? I will at least. Will you? We need also to move away from fossil fuels now and protect our oceans, water, air, and bees. But trees offer a good symbol of what we need to do to fix things. Look to nature. We need to work to literally and figuratively undo the harm we have done and work to protect this Earth's interconnected ecosystems, or we are doomed. We have only one fragile planet and one thin, airy shell of an atmosphere. We need to abandon the illusion of the past and fight for a future where we are not all cannibalistic humanoid underground dwellers, aka Chud. We need to fight for truth, justice, truth, art, love, and life. To me, social justice warrior is no insult at all. All my heroes are SJWs. Everyone smart is getting active, loud, and insistent. Action is required. Our reality is the sci-fi one of killer drones and constant surveillance, of being enmeshed in technology and in a larger matrix of entropy and death, everything constantly ending, restarting, and accelerating. Technology has brought us to a brink and nature waits for us below. And who even knows if any of this is real? I feel worried it probably is. It feels too real and unreal. Another summary could be written with this essay examined as one chapter in my in-progress 2-volume experimental memoir, Shadows of Clouds on the Mountains, in which the many connections of these books to the rest of my life are noted. This book he read right before his sister's death. This book was from his first college love. This book led him north, and of course, there's also what can be inferred from being familiar with the books themselves. And as titles, every line of this essay is a reference, often many-leveled, the title of a book, or that one tape, and the more of these one has read and or heard, the more this essay will have to offer. Someone who has read them all would likely get even more out of reading this piece than I do. When I wrote this, the house was a range of all book hills for a month. Morrow had a Lady Uranium EP release here, theme Dress as Your Ancestor on Halloween. Morrow is Lady Uranium. She's amazing. Find her music online with multi-instrumentalist Rosie Hutchinson. Hosey, she's rad too, calling our house the bookstore. But we couldn't fully display our bookcases as half the books were in our bedroom, where the essay was forming on the east wall. The essay feels to me like footnotes to a poem, the who, what, where, who else, how, and when of being human in a place and time. As Philip Petit said after high-wire walking illegally between the Twin Towers of the World Trade Center in 1974, arguably the acoustic coup of that century, an act alluded to by at least one book with the title here, There Is No Why. Here we go. Section 1, the first bookcase. An effect you might not get here in this video is the effect of when you read this IRL, you read the poem as written and you're like, that's interesting, and then you see that it's actual books. I feel like it hits different when you read it the second time off the books. The thing about life is that one day you'll be dead. And another thing, the story is true. The meaning of evolution, the evolution of desire, the desire of my eyes, our dumb world, our dumb century, the story of my life, the ordeal of change, a primate's memoir, chronicles of wasted time, the ghost ocean. The inland island, the mysterious island, Treasure Island, the mysterious valley, the desert, weird stories from real life, this boy's life, last child in the woods, the drama of the gifted child, the prince, the chosen, the prophet, a hero of our time, master and commander, master of the world, the man with the golden arm, the wish giver, king of the cats, a legend of the future, the buried giant, the lover, the moviegoer, the good soldier, the idiot, the rebel, the voyeur, the immoralist, Pan, rascal, infidel, a modern Mephistopheles, the man who awoke, the stranger, the architect of ruins, the emperor of all maladies, mind of fire, burning the days. What is the what? My father's dragon, the shape of me and other stuff. 7 brief lessons on physics. Look homeward, angel. Lost in the fun house, nothing happened and then it did. A life in the 20th century. Sailing alone around the world. A world beyond the words, beyond the pawpaw trees, sailing alone around the room. Speak, memory. Play it as it lays, the pure and the impure, a dream of red mansions, the outlaw Bible of American poetry. Being good, being there, either or. The unbearable lightness of being. Cosmos, light, chaos, total chaos. A short history of nearly everything, a little history of the world, an intimate history of humanity, a natural history of the senses, the complete history of New Mexico, forgotten tales of New Mexico, the evolution of God, the death of Satan, the last days of Christ the vampire, the space between, the space of literature, the mystery of Atlantis, the mysteries of Easter Island, great unsolved crimes, the power of positive thinking, the long dark tea time of the soul. Where am I now? Home ground, lost in the land of enchantment and exploitation, miles from nowhere on the edge of nowhere in a sunburned country where the bluebird sings to the lemonade springs. Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde writing our lives, Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde riding with style. We are the stories we tell, the art of time and fiction, the art of memoir, the gentle art of wandering, scary stories to tell in the dark, a list of things that didn't kill me, stories of the Old West, the end of the West, the good earth, the earth and its atmosphere, life on earth, the uninhabitable earth, the farther reaches of human nature, coming of age in the Milky Way, remembering smell, the smell of apples, a good scent from a strange mountain, a good scent from a strange mountain, a good scent from a strange mountain. The golden apples, an American childhood, the sense of an ending. This is a strange country. Oh, pioneers, you just don't understand. Manifest destiny and mission in American history. Goodbye to all that. Goodbye, Columbus. And then there's this. God is not great. God, you exist. All quiet on the Western Front. The cricket in Times Square. White noise. Silent spring, silent spring, silent spring. Bridge of ashes, bridge of time, star bridge. In other words, who knew? Hey, I've got my own problems. I'm a stranger here myself. We live in the country, the new country, on the ridge between life and death, icebound in the kingdom of ice, being human in a technological age. Somehow tenderness survives. Wild animals of the world, reasonable creatures, the enchanted. Let us now praise famous men, notable American women, ordinary people, the unnamed, the Argonauts, sky watchers of ages past, the beautiful and damned, the last party, the last battle, shadow divers, Buddy and his chums, the dispossessed, the imperfectionists, black angels, adobe angels, dangerous angels, the wild bunch, strangers in the land, the outsiders, savage girls and wild boys, against civilization, against nature, creatures of light and darkness, and their children after them, wandering home. Walk to the end of the world, ride with the sun, journey to the end of the night, ambush the mind's eye, go ask Alice. Let's talk about love, descents of memory, how we know what isn't so, the razor's edge, the quiet battle, salvation on Sand Mountain, new theories of everything, the United States 1492 to 1877, divided we stand, the conquest of the North and South Poles, Twin Peaks, a history of UFO crashes, the Memoir Project, disappearance, a map. How to know the minerals and rocks, how to stay alive in the woods, how to change your mind, how to speak dog, how to read a book, autobiography, existentialism, the anti-aesthetic, home, how to read a film, how to read buildings, how to be good, how to talk about books you haven't read, how to write a book proposal, how to write a movie in 21 days, how not to write a screenplay, how to sell your screenplay, how to be alone. Here comes another lesson, how to win friends and influence people, how to read poetry like a professor, how to live safely in a science fictional universe, how fiction works, how we die, the origin, the end. The name of this book is Secret, the Book of Disquiet, the Book Against God, the Magician's Book, the Book of Other People, the Cloud Collector's Handbook, Songbook, the Little Book of the Big Bang, the True Book of Deserts, the Graveyard Book. Your own words, the secret history, the first 3 minutes, the last 3 minutes, when the legends die. Year 0, the year 1000, 1491, 1984, 2666, the age of rock, the age of reason, the age of great dreams, the nuclear age, the age of wire and string. Strange encounters, strange harbors, strange gods, the glamour of strangeness, the real history of the end of the world, careless people, careless love, the left hand of darkness, the left hand of creation, the left hand of darkness. We, the ego and the id, child of the dark, lord of light, the alchemist, the stranger. You've got to read this. So maybe you're getting the idea. Section 2 of 3. The middle bookcase. Got rid of this one because it was water damaged when I moved. Because before this bookcase was in this house, it was in my previous apartment, and the bathroom wall leaked. And this was on the outside of where that bathroom was. Shelf by shelf. That's why I call this a conceptual artwork. I mean, it was when it existed. It is. And this is the written document for it. It's an essay and a conceptual artwork. I'm very influenced by a book called Irrational Judgments about the 1960s New York conceptual art scene. It's a mind-expanding, art-expanding work for me. Led to a couple of years of me making hybrid works like this. Section 2. Who are you? We are an image from the future. Wild, independent people. The goats, the borrowers, lives on the boundaries. The singers of time, seeing in the dark, surviving the flood, walking the unknown river, river of the sun, great river, the river that flows uphill, the road unseen, a radiant curve, the river of doubt, through painted deserts, through a universe darkly, through children's eyes, summerland, waterland, spiderland, dreamland, the other side of dark remembrance, growing up walking, haunted by waters, bucking the sun on the shores of the unknown. Let's look at animals. Animals that live in the sea, animals that live in trees, baby animals of the animal family. What can an animal do? Oh, starting over, sorry. Let's look at animals. Animals that live in the sea, animals that live in trees, baby animals of the Southwest, our natural history, the animal family. What can an animal do? Animals do the strangest things. Animals build amazing homes. The house of the scorpion, the secret house, house made of dawn, little house in the big woods, house of the sleeping beauties, the house of the dead, the secret cave, the secret way to war, the secret life of the forest, the secret clocks, the day we found the universe, the secret language, the forgotten language, lost in translation, found in translation, the way of a pilgrim, the way of the world, minds of the high desert, a door in the hive, what to listen for in music, what we see when we read, the unconscious civilization, dime store alchemy, symbols and their meanings, symbols of transformations and dreams, working with the dreaming body, the anatomy of dirty words, some anatomies of melancholy, the decline and fall of practically everybody, the collapse of Western civilization. What does it all mean? Fairy tales, lost states, much ado about nothing. For the time being, everything is illuminated. Where the sea used to be, where the wild things are, where I was from, the clouds, the trees, the town, the monument, the clearing, the split sky, the experience of place, the hot gates, the house at the end of the road, cities in the wilderness, the death and life of great American cities, Paradise Lost and its critics, cities of the plain, the verging cities, the sound and the fury, the unwanted sound of everything we want. Vectors, mountain city, open city, city in the sky, city of broken promises, the city of golden lead, a city at the end of the world, along the Rio Grande. Voices from the Rio Grande, voices from Chernobyl, other worlds. The spirit catches you and you fall down. Can you see what I see? Things fall apart. Failure is an option. Night falls fast, deep down dark, darker than you think. Meet the men who sail the seas, honey girl, witches, midwives, and nurses, the lady in gold. Your heart is a muscle the size of a fist. I should be extremely happy in your company, lucky if I live to be 100. There's this river, the call of the wild, the call of the weird, life as we knew it. Let's explore a river, the sea, famous mysteries of the sea, lake monster mysteries, the desert lake, the desert world, the desert year, desert of the heart, the search for Planet X and search of lost time in the beginning, before the beginning, behind the beautiful forevers. You can say no. As is, the heart is a lonely hunter, coming into the country, down the great unknown, a long way down. The immense journey, a journey to the center of the earth, the incredible journey, the magic journey, the worst journey in the world, a voyage long and strange, a canyon voyage. My childhood, a separate piece, a place to stand, holes, the circulation of the blood, ripples across stagnant water, the creation of the universe, a heartbreaking work of staggering genius, fuzzy memories. The hermit's story, how to think about weird things, how to identify plants, how music works, how to read literature like a professor. Biography is high adventure. Unforgiving years, manhood for amateurs, divorce among the gulls, the riding life, a nervous splendor, the polysyllabic spree, the door in the wall. Study is hard work. Looking at pictures, looking backward. Will you miss me when I'm gone? The vanished library, the vanishing hitchhiker, my brief history, the house with the clock in its walls, the time machine, the saddest time, adventure time, time in the river flowing, the time trap, the crucible of time, a tale for the time being, geologic time, a time for everything, the future while it happened, the man who saw through time, the man who walked through time, stowaway to the mushroom planet, the thief lord, the shapeshifter, crashing through, storming the gates of paradise, other people's property, the far edges of the fourth genre. Feel like an artist, book by book, burn the field, the uses of the past, the futures, the use and abuse of literature, the morning watch, the late shift, midnight in the garden of good and evil. And now we come to section 3. Oh, Beef Child, I miss that cat. That was a great cat. Maine Coon. Wonderful, brilliant, smart personality, and he could kind of talk. He would say English words with a Meowian accent. So section 3 was all these books going down to here. That's funny, that stack was a way to put more books into the project. It kept growing and growing, those stacks too. Really, it was supposed to be one case when it started. The thing just kept things to say. Section 3. East wind, west wind, Icarus at the edge of time, the word museum, museum of human beings, a man called destruction, the man who tasted shapes. I can do it myself. The world split open, the world within, metamorphosis and other stories, one world or none, a fortunate life, the gospel of Judas, death house letters written on the body. The story of rock, the story of the night, symphony for the city of the dead, applicant, wizard for hire, an anthropologist on Mars, reflections in a golden eye, the moat in God's eye, pictures at an exhibition, dusk and other stories, cloud atlas, the soft machine, the lost deep thoughts, the prince and the pauper, riding under fire. What is history? Life before life, myth, information, the travels, the awakening, making peace. techniques of fiction writing, the illusion of technique, moon madness, the myth of Sisyphus, my side of the mountain, the origin of things, Lady Uranium, the tempest, voice of the whirlwind, the 11th commandment, the castle, the glass castle, darkness at noon, machines that kill, the sound of a wild snail eating. What's the worst that could happen? Blood cults, the money and the power, mutiny on the globe, cemetery world, ghost wars. What's inside the box? A scattered people, riding to survive. Don't know much about history. I know what you did last summer. The days are just packed. The visitors from Oz, listening to America, blessed by light. America, the tin forest, the illustrated leaves of grass, mysteries of the past, mysteries of the unexplained, the secret war, the war in the desert, the dictionary of imaginary places. The dark is rising, into the wild, into the wild, into the wild. In defense of nature, crowd culture, the snake pit, the street of crocodiles, land of enchantment, land of conflict, the orphan land, the odyssey, the waves. The moon is a harsh mistress. The moon is hell. The moon in the Western imagination. The art of fiction, the art of subtext, the art of thinking, the gentle art of Swedish death cleaning, the art of the personal essay. Full moon, sing down the moon. Singularities, strange relations, strange creations. The lotus cave, the spaceships of Ezekiel, creature, always running. War is not our destiny. The other side of the sky, earth abides, future-proof, all about strange beasts of the present. Sounds, feelings, thoughts, abstract art, moments rightly placed. Out of the silent planet, some planet, the gateway, sleeping where I fall. The forest and the sea, the lonely sea in the sky, the sea of grass, the cloud forest, the agony and the ecstasy, death from the skies, oh, the glory of it all. White sands, rainbow trails, dry rivers and standing rocks, they live just above my head. To America, prehistoric America, my brilliant friend, my mortal enemy, Americana, east of Eden, west of everything. American fairy tales, American character, the legacy of conquest, the wolves of North America, great American deserts, the best democracy money can buy. Hold still before you become improbable. How to clean practically anything. Trees. A tree is nice. A walk in the woods, an ocean of air, actual air. The last beautiful days of autumn. We'll to the woods no more. We have eaten the forest. The good old days, they were terrible. The next 50 years, fire season. The day after. Enough. Find the good. Stand up for hope and respect. Go for the goal. Child-proof your home. Shake the devil off. Do it. I saw you from afar, the hidden writer, the novel and the reader, on the loose, going solo, the cat who went to heaven, the good, the bad, and the mad. No plot, no problem. Sleeping in caves, swimming in the volcano, hiking the Bigfoot country. Staking the sea for green fields, the empty mirror in a mirror for a new novel. Turbulent mirror, our atmosphere, depression glass, a million little pieces, acres of diamonds, a million stars. Strangely enough, in the days of the comet, the flying saucers are real. The Colt at the end of the world, New Mexico's best. The dreams our stuff is made of, the shape of inner space. Summer magic, do-it-yourself magic, Earth star magic, mostly magic, half magic, magic of the black mirror, the Trouble with Magic, Mysteries and Miracles of New Mexico, The Worst Years of Our Lives, More Mysteries and Miracles of New Mexico. Is your bed still there when you close the door, when you were engulfed in flames? Wake in Fright, Brave New World Revisited, The Old Weird America, Don't Suck, Don't Die. And then, afterward, The Work in the World. I think I have to say before I read this that my life is different now. I'm divorced and live in an apartment. Earlier this month, Saturday, January 11th, 2020, as part of the long-running Badmouth reading series at Q Staff Theater in Southeast Albuquerque, I debuted the preceding essay, Studying the Earth from Space, The Prairie Has an Endless Sky. Writers Bryce, Emily, and Tiffany Midge read to Mara, Lady Uranium, my wife, as of October 6, 2019, performed music. Mara and I drove through the dusk's early light from the Northeast Heights in her white, cracked glass PT Cruiser. 11 miles, 16 minutes, southwest, the light-crowned mountains void beside and behind us. Mara playing her newest songs from her phone plugged into her car, 2 of the 4 she would play that night. Brave New World 1984 and Darude Dystopia, listening, preparing, often singing, alert, incandescent, guitar-based songs, lo-fi and layered, shimmery and muted, invoking early Iron and Wine, producing Cocteau Twins. It's a brave new 1984, one hand on my phone and one foot out the door. We parked nearby carrying Mara's gear. I wore a blue suit coat over a t-shirt and jeans with gray Chuck Taylors, carrying my black backpack, and Mara wore a black jumpsuit with a plunging neckline, a stylish gray cloak, and laced-up olive green boots. The venue, Q Staff Theater, is a dignified 71-year-old brick building at the corner of Broadway and Lead in New Albuquerque, the post-railroad, post-1880 half of town. Established after residents of the original Via de Albuquerque, established 1706, declined to give any land for a railroad, in a part of New Albuquerque now called the Huning Highland Historic District. In 1880, an all-white housing development. Its houses more sharp-roofed East Coast than Adobe Southwest, many built from catalog kits from Sears. Nob Hill, farther east, now in part a trendy shopping district, also began as a whites-only subdivision in 1916. Albuquerque is thankfully too multicultural for such racist experiments to ever last, such segregated areas inevitably merging with the surrounding city. Franz Huning, whose racist dream began this district, is today remembered as someone who lived in an eccentric castle-like home. For his granddaughter, author Erna Ferguson, who wrote lovingly and well about Albuquerque and who donated her house to be a library, and for this 147-acre district whose history has since been whitewashed. Ahem. Albuquerque was the dusty Wild West outpost when the railroad arrived in 1880 and brought an influx of railroad workers from the east. Many of them, unprepared for what they encountered in their new home, experienced culture shock as well as location shock. There were Indians and Mexicans. Not everyone spoke English. The desert was teeming with huge spiders, rattlesnakes, and ravenous coyotes. Even the birds were dangerous. The altitude and dry air were uncomfortable. The food was so spicy it was close to inedible, and the buildings were ugly. Everything was foreign and strange, too strange. Even the most adaptable and adventurous railroad families were homesick. They missed their comfortable houses and familiar neighborhoods back east. When Albuquerque businessman Franz Huning announced he was creating a new Anglos-only housing development on the outskirts of the city, the newcomers couldn't buy the lots fast enough. They set about constructing the un-Albuquerque. They hoped Huning Highland would be an island of cultural security in the midst of an alien environment. Indians and spiders and Mexicans, oh my. And Lynn Sturdivant wrote that recently for HiddenNewMexico.com in 2018. I mean, birds? Daddy, I'm frightened of scary flying birds. Yes, child, I know. That's why only white people will live in the neighborhood. Appropriately, I know a resident of a nearby subdivision, Huning Castle, and he wrote online recently about a fierce nesting hawk that kept attacking residents' heads. The district, Franz Huning's Highland Edition, rose with old Route 66 at its north and fell with I-25 at its west. Rosanna M. Martinez, a writer I once had fun sharing a table with at a beer tasting event, wrote in the May 5, 2017 Albuquerque Journal that Huning Highlands was run down during the 1960s and 1970s. The neighborhood saw a revitalization after it was placed on the National Register of Historic Places in 1978, which allowed homeowners to receive income tax rebates on work they did on their houses. I think when people drive into downtown, you come down Lead, and you will see this neighborhood that's like, what? Said Sally Trefethen, Huning Highland Neighborhoods Association board member. Huning's Highland Neighborhood Association board member. It's this anomaly that's sitting there. There's something about, how did it get here? These houses don't fit with the rest of the city. This district also contains Presbyterian Hospital, where my oldest daughter Anodyne and my friend Ty were born, with the 1931 Maytag Laboratory and its carved stone archway where scientists fought the tuberculosis pandemic. And it has the Spy House, 207 High Street Northeast, former home of Manhattan Project machinist David Greenglass, family/collaborator of Julius and Ethel Rosenberg, who stole or helped steal nuclear secrets for the USSR and were executed, where Greenglass lived and a meeting happened, a well-maintained 2-story house where Morrow's former Glass Menageries bandmates Gina and Chris had their wedding on May 31st, 2014. From that house came 2 friends' loving expression of commitment and worldwide fears of nuclear war. And now humans have tested perhaps 2,121 nuclear weapons. Basically, a massive nuclear war has already happened, in part because of all that's happened here. The venue, Q-Staff Theater, red/orange/yellow brick, wears a crown-like sign and clock high on an outer wall. This building, built in 1949, has for 10 years housed an experimental acting troupe. Previously, the Department of Labor, a costume shop, a hardware store, a warehouse. Its front doors open out to murals, including one of activist Dolores Huerta. Follow lead and the lead and coal bridges arc over tracks and First Avenue. On the eastbound Coal Bridge, Morrow's parents were in a serious accident in 1977, 7 years before Morrow's birth. 2013 crime drama Two Guns with Denzel Washington used one as a U.S.-Mexico border crossing. 2013 crime drama Two Guns with Denzel Washington used one as a U.S.-Mexico border crossing. Inside the venue, gauzy white sheets along a wall, electric candelabra from a high ceiling, a long black curtain forming another wall, the space a canyon between yin and yang, a small stage framed/backed by isinglass squares, chairs, tables, a corner table for wine bottles and hors d'oeuvres, faces of friends, Renee, Hannah, Maria, Nora, Jennifer, Lisa, Rebecca, Tim. Print of a painting of a cowboy, hatted sperm cell, a wooden penitente-style cart, a cow skull, a crowd. I wasn't fully ready, and we weren't as early as instructed. We had just returned from a trip to Mesa, Arizona, my birthplace, for my dad's 80th birthday. 4 days before, Morrow and my kids, ages 6 to 14, and I had been riding through mountains and desert on I-40 West and Arizona State Route 87 South, winding forest-lined along a controlled burn by the Forest Service, north of Payson, Arizona's geographic center. The dark roadside on our right flickering with fiery brush piles, the air all haze, even my screen-addicted children looking out to exclaim. The dark curves of the road, the tufts of fire, the motions of my/our new-to-us SUV, the music and sounds of Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. I had wanted to print out zines/booklets with my essay, a foreword and an obligatory endnote listing title contributing authors, but the Arizona trip had left me scrambling, so I had only one, which I later gave to my friend Nora, who attended and is moving to Colorado. I had wanted to have slides playing of photos of the shelves that were my essay's first form, the books, shown rotated 90 degrees like Rothko-esque rectangles, floating made of light and other rectangles, and we did manage that thanks to Rich of Q-Staff and Bram, Morrow's tech-savvy older brother. I was unable to get any water beforehand, though, the event starting as promptly as any show in Santa Fe, and felt corralled by the motion-limiting demands of a feedbacking mic. I wanted also to read the pieces forward, but the essay alone took about 15 minutes, aka all my time. Rebecca, who co-founded and now runs Bad Mouth, and who has a title, Creature, in my essay, introduced Morrow, skimming her bio from a printout. Morrow played a dreamy cover of Talking Heads' Heaven, heavy on the delay and reverb. It's hard to imagine that nothing at all could be this exciting, could be this much fun. After Morrow performed, Rebecca introduced me, and then, after describing the concept, I read the essay, people laughing, exclaiming, harumphing at the most atheistic passage in Part 1. Part 1, which was initially going to be the whole essay. Part 1, or How I Spent October 2019, among drifts of books, a month including back-to-back shows Morrow played in Santa Fe, and many work trips north to Las Vegas, New Mexico, driving for a blind teacher. The shelves of Part 2 shortened my clauses. In November 2019, literally a month during which the dystopian 1982 film Blade Runner takes place. Accurate. One friend we stayed with in Santa Fe had a pepper grinder stolen from Mar-a-Lago. Twisting it once, she said, "I like to imagine that vile man's head is in here," and we all laughed. I had to ask Morrow if there could even be a Part 3, as the books previously on these shelves were hers. Part 3 I edited with the rest throughout December, sometimes changing it wildly as the 3 stacks of books on this jumble of smaller cases allowed me to add books without worrying about space. I often write using exact word counts. It's an added chance for symbolism, and writing within specific word counts invites crystalline density. So when I noticed that when I typed up all the titles, it was almost to 2,666 words, I knew I could add titles to make that exact. I made the foreword 2,666 words too, also the endnote and this afterword. We all live in a once far-off and ominous future. In December, Morrow had her 36th birthday party. We attended a Jim Henson exhibit at the Albuquerque Museum, celebrated a godless modern Christmas, also Grizzlemas, a hilarious holiday my kids invented, pure randomness with a tree made out of books in the front room, the book tree this year subsequently given a door and made into a book cave, Anodyne getting into modeling, growing up, Australia on fire, a war with Iran being provoked by our idiot neo-fascist leader, grind, taking the kids, dog to splash through Harris Creek, the impeachment trial, our cat Mocat going feral, author Elizabeth Wurtzel dying. I heard notable restlessness about 2/3 of the way through, and who knows what anyone took from it. Mark and David, Morrow's dad and older brother, my father-in-law and brother-in-law, hunched forward over drawing pads, sketching Morrow and me, Mark giving me a backdrop of desert buttes made of tall stacks of books. The evening continued. Morrow played in between and after every reader, closing with So Let the Mountains as an encore, a beautifully brutal existential reckoning, a howl. So let the mountains swallow me whole, let them carry my body weight in gold, let these mountains swallow me whole, and let them bury all the secrets that I hold. Bryce Emily, a beardy white Floridian, read from his A Brief Family History of Drowning. Maybe we long for places, or we're the place itself, countries like all islands that break where they end. Whatever happened felt like it could mean something. Tiffany Midge of the Standing Rock Sioux tribe, now of Moscow, Idaho, brought the valuable perspective of an indigenous woman writing pointedly about the West. Satire isn't nice, she said in a recent online interview, but its targets are always going to be privileged classes or oppressive institutions. It is a response and a way to fight back. Midge read a piece from her book Bury My Heart at Chuck E. Cheese's, an essay comprised in part of published headlines. Morrow's mom, Cecilia, noticed this, commenting later that fit alongside my essay, as did the palimpsest elements of Morrow's songs. Eva Z. in Cinematary this month writes that, approaching the end of the decade, no shortage of critical ink has been spilled on the way. The typifying form of the 2010s was pastiche, or perhaps more accurately, a form of pastiche which relates to its forebears in a mode situated halfway between reverence and parody. She writes also of gesturing toward the aesthetic suicide that pastiche essentially represents when it takes on the dominant maximalist shapes that it is tended towards in post-aughts Anglophone culture. And yes, okay, but I love pastiche. I love found art, sampled music, city walls, mashups, bulletin boards, collage, blackout text, shadow boxes. Our world is already a florid jumble. Pastiche invites order, discovery, meaning. Here's Deborah Solomon in Utopia Parkway, the life and work of Joseph Cornell. In an astounding art historical reversal, assemblage and installation have become the defining mediums of 21st century art. Assemblage speaks to the boundary-erasing, mashed-up instincts of the current generation. Contemporary artists tend to reject the formalist belief that art is separate from everyday life. They want their art to mingle with the non-art objects of the world. Or, as the sculptor Arlene Shechet recently said, there are no more non-art materials. I received a few blank looks and measured responses, suggesting my visually formatted lyric essay/conceptual artwork could use a humanizing afterward. My favorite response was my 6-year-old daughter Willow, days before, flipping dutifully through a copy in my car to a photo of our cat Beefchild on a bookcase before declaring, "This is the only good page." Morrow and I drove home listening to songs we were planning to cover live as TVI, all dance pop, New Order, Erasure to the Knife, Washed Out, synthesized mood music for a high-speed sideways elevator ride down an empty freeway, exiting at Eubank Boulevard, named for a World War II general, turning at the 2.5-story neon outlined Owl's Head of the Owl Cafe. There are 2 Owl Cafes here in New Mexico. The first, established 1945 south, is in San Antonio, the San Antonio near Socorro, and has a simple menu. It's near the Trinity site where the first atomic bomb tore open reality, and it's where all those terrifying scientists, Oppenheimer fancying himself a god and co., ate lunch. You can sit at the same mahogany bar as men who thought their test might set our planet's sky on fire, but did it anyway. A sick thrill. The second location, that giant neon outlined Owlhead, established 1986, is here in Albuquerque. We love it. The place really leans into an idealized 1950s theme, post-nuclear, coffee, pie, tabletop jukeboxes. The booths and tables swoop around a peninsular staff area, and 3 floor-to-ceiling heaters connected to the kitchen. Owl figurines line a room encircling recess below the roof. Owl images abound. Black and white tiles, bold bright colors, chrome. In July of 2013, Morrow and I escaped into the Owl Cafe from an extreme rain/hail/windstorm during an intense monsoon season. Eubank a river, cars foundering upstream, every drain a whirlpool. We sat in a windowside half booth, watching unbound nature romping across suburbia, the old gods reawakened, modernity drowned in mist, two lovers taking shelter in a soon-to-be illuminated effigy of an owl, as if for the last step of a pagan ritual. This time we parked within sight of that booth to better watch the car. As we had seen, almost beside the overlit Chevron station just across a side street, three featureless silhouettes noiselessly swooping around a prismatic utility box between the gas station and the road. I'm fairly sure they were tagging, proclaiming their identities. And or maybe they were dancing to music only they could hear. Morrow said, "They're moving so strangely." And I said, "They look like the woodsman in Twin Peaks: The Return. Sidling, scuffling, flickering like manic gray fire." The end. Mike, that's a weird ending. Why does it end like that? Ends with a vibe about words. It was written by 2019 Mike. Very different person. No, not that different, but, you know, in some ways. Read this footnote with all the authors. I'm going to spare the world this. Well, how about when this comes out in the book, you can read it then. So, I got a YouTube comment recently that was saying a good topic for a video might be books that I regret getting rid of during the Purge TM, when I got rid of so many books. I think quite a few of them are listed in here. Many of which I regret getting rid of. Some of which I'm like, that's okay that I got rid of it. But I suppose if the book collection were a country, this would be its constitution. Or something. But I think it's kind of cool. It really, all that stuff in the foreword, I forgot about that, but it really was like a full body sand tray therapy thing. And it was crazy, like expressing, you know, you all have done magnetic poetry. It's amazing what can come out in that, you know? Same sort of deal. Well, thanks for joining me on this indulgent, weird, sick day activity. Reading this chapter of Book 2 of Shadows of Clouds on the Mountains, called Studying the Earth from Space. The Prairie Has an Endless Sky. And be curious to hear what anyone thought. Always end up reading the comments. Go live in the closet. This is where you belong, in the dark, dark closet with the other trash, where no one can see you. Goodbye.